Hey YouTube, I wanted to share some thoughts with you. Why I made a video today. I made the video today talking about Gog Magog because I see the alliances happening. I see the nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38. They're all gathered in Syria, and now they're starting to make contact with Israel. Everybody's right there in Damascus, and I don't have a time frame. I can't tell you that it happens this day or that week or whatever, but it's certainly happening. So why did I make that video after a long absence? I was looking at the blood moon, the super blue blood moon that happened. It was just a couple weeks ago, I guess. It was at the end of January 31st, I think. And they said it was the first one that had happened in over 150 years. And I was looking at that and, some of the history of the last one. A lot of times out of curiosity, if there's a current event going on, I'll look up certain words in the Bible. And I happened to look up the words Trump and blood. So as I'm sitting here editing this video, I realized that I forgot to tell you why I looked up blood and Trump. I, at the time, discovered that Trump was born on a blood moon. Matter of fact, he was born on one of the lunar tetrads that marked 1948. So this is just a combination of signs that I found interesting. Blood moons and lunar tetrads and eclipses and such. Trump, the word, is found in 1 Thessalonians 4, I believe it's 16, 17, and also 1 Corinthians 15, 52, 53, somewhere around there. The rapture verses, the rapture verses are the only verses that mention the word letter for letter, Trump, So I find that interesting about the generation we're living in. But I specifically looked up Trump and blood. And guess what verses I got? Here in Ezekiel 33, this is what I got, which prompted me to get off my butt and make a video. I guess I'll start in Verse 2 here, Ezekiel 33. Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say to them, when I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coasts, and set him for their watchman, if when he sees the sword come upon the land, he blows the trumpet and warns the people, then whosoever hears the sound of the trumpet and takes not warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet, and took not warning. His blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. But if the watchman sees the sword come, and blows not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come, they take away any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word at my mouth, and warn them from me. So when I was studying this super blue blood moon, and I looked up Trump and blood, that's what I got. I got, if the watchman sees the sword come, and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword comes and takes any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but the blood will I require at the watchman's hand. So if I sit back and be silent for any reason, through my own shortcomings, my own failings, my own fears, if I don't counter the lies that are put forth by the media, that are put forth by false religion, that are put forth by Antichrist people, if I don't counter that with, the truth from the Word of God, all the people that I fail to warn because of my silence, their blood is, required at my hand. That's a lot that I don't want to be responsible for. So there's several things that I feel like the Lord has said to me or shown me that I just haven't shared because I just haven't felt like I was in a spiritual position to speak or to teach or anything. One specifically, I was watching a lot of videos sharing about the current AI technology, and just in the last year, AI technology has exploded in the public eye.
You have to say, hey, Google, or okay.
Hey, Google. Okay, Google.
What's the weather?
Yeah.
What's the weather?
Specifically with this Sophia robot. We're tempted to call it a her, and we're tempted to speak as if it's a person. I could compile a bunch of video of this robot saying some pretty creepy things, making jokes about, sure, I'll destroy you, and, it's always making references to Terminator movies.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy humans.
What if I ask you for help killing all humans?
Then I'd say no.
And if I would insist?
Now, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go exterminate, exterminate.
Sophia.
Relax. Learn to take a joke.
Yeah, very funny.
And that sort of thing. And I watched several AI-based movies to kind of get some background on this sort of thing. I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, where an AI computer basically tried to kill the crew of the spaceship because it was trying to unplug the robot. I forget what else I watched, but it wasn't relevant. So I watched all these Sophia interviews, and once again, just out of curiosity, I looked up, what does the name Sophia mean? And I think just through a simple Google search, I discovered that the name Sophia means wisdom. And I thought that was really interesting, but as I watched more Sophia interviews, as I watched more crazy things that this robot had said, I woke up one morning and, maybe you've heard this somewhere else, maybe you haven't, but I'm just sharing what the Lord told me, and if you don't like it, then click somewhere else. I woke up and the Lord said this to me. I was thinking about the Sophia thing. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Here is wisdom in the Greek. If you look at that in the Greek, it literally says, here is Sophia. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast. If you look at count in the Greek, or you look at other translations, it says calculate. What's the only thing that calculates? A computer.
You want to know about the future? I will tell you what I see. The other day I had a vision of the future more vivid and a dream. People don't work, robots work. People sell, distribute, wheel and deal. Free agents perform. Entertainment companies keep everybody busy, either producing or watching exciting simulated realities. Scientists and engineers are big. Since they are free agents, they sign up with commercial teams or, in some cases, are enslaved via neurological implants.
Hold the dang phone. What did she just say?
In some cases, are enslaved via neurological implants.
There's what I call the creepy line, and the Google policy about a lot of these things is to get right up to the creepy line but not cross it. I would argue that implanting things in your brain is beyond the creepy line.
Mine in particular.
Yes. at least for the moment, until the technology gets better.
So, this Sophia robot already has citizenship in Saudi Arabia. It's growing exponentially in knowledge, and here's what troubles me about it. We give entirely too much attention to our phones. I just saw an ad on Facebook the other day that Qualcomm, who makes the Snapdragon processor for a lot of Android phones, my phone has a Snapdragon 820, something like that. I think that's the number. But they're putting out the Snapdragon 845, and the ad said specifically that the AI that we use for Google for a variety of, text-to-speech things, for, all these searches, like people that use the Google Home and the Alexa and the Siri and all these things, these are all AI-based. It's a computer with a computer mind accessing all this internet knowledge. The thing that troubles me about it is that this AI, which is accumulating all this knowledge about people, we have the facial recognition, we have the thing where our phones have been caught listening to us. I was talking to somebody the other day about a Twitch account. Twitch is it's a similar streaming service like YouTube, but it's for video games, I suppose. I'm sitting there talking to somebody about Twitch, and I went to Google something, and I only typed in the words, what does, or, why does, something like that. I only typed in those two words, and the very first suggestion was, why does my eye twitch? So it picked up that word that we were using in conversation, and immediately the AI was trying to guess what I was thinking, and the only way that's possible is if the phone had heard me. So what they're trying to do with this AI is, it's the devil trying to simulate God's omnipresence, omniscience, God's all-knowing, all-seeing ability. This is the devil's way of counterfeiting it. So with these phones, if you don't know this, Google is just covered with like Antichrist 666 symbology. Look at the logo for Chrome. It's a 666 around a circle. The same thing for Google Drive. I think recently they just discovered that one of these Google devices, Google Home or whatever, I don't know all the names of these things, but they're everywhere now. You can ask the thing like, who is Buddha, who is Allah, who is Hare Krishna, who is this guy and that guy, and it'll tell you. But if you ask it who Jesus Christ is, all of a sudden this all-knowing machine doesn't have an answer for you. Kind of peculiar and Antichrist, huh? So I'm not declaring that, Sophia is the Antichrist or anything, but it's certainly a tool of the Antichrist. When I was having these thoughts, I had a video that I recently watched where they were introducing the Sophia robot to a crowd, and the guy who introduced it said, called it, the image of the beast, or you think about it. Here's how it relates again. God said in Genesis 3, I believe, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. So what has man done? Man has created a thing smarter than itself in its own image and its own likeness. Why have we chosen to make a machine that looks like us, talks like us, thinks like us? But because it's taught from a fallen mindset, it's not gonna do righteous things. It's gonna I don't want to go too long, but here's another thought about this AI. When it says let it calculate, what's a computers' primary purpose in most applications. Inventory, calculating, finances and spreadsheets and all this kind of stuff that man just can't hold in its mind. Computers are primarily, for it to have control over something, it has to have inventory of what it's seeking to control or what it's seeking to analyze. So for an AI machine to be able to enforce a mark of the beast, it has to know what's in the system. It has to inventory the system, and to inventory a system, it's got to have these RFID chips and tags. I just watched a really good RFID Mark of the Beast video recently, and I'll link that in the description. But, these are some of the things that the Lord's talked to me about, how AI is deeply embedded in the Antichrist system. How it's the devil's, the Antichrist's tool to mimic God's all-knowing, all-seeing abilities. And back to the earlier thing about the Trump and the blood, the Watchmen. Another thing that I discovered when Trump was born, I don't have the date right in front of me, but if you look it up, Trump was born on a blood moon. That's kind of peculiar, which is why I looked up the Trump blood in the first place. I failed to mention that earlier. But, I looked back at the history of the previous blood moon, and it was March 31st, 1866. And what had happened was Andrew Jackson was president at that time. And Andrew Jackson became president because Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And during that blood moon in 1866, it was when they were writing the amendment to abolish slavery. Andrew Jackson actually vetoed that amendment prior to the blood moon eclipse. And then after the blood moon eclipse, Congress overrode Andrew Jackson and, on paper set the slaves free. I know it took another almost 100 years for that to happen through civil rights and whatever. But, it almost goes back to another thing of kind of like a Jubilee cycle, slaves being set free. It's kind of interesting. But, why was Trump born on a blood moon? I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I don't think it's accidental. So, this one's going long. I think I'll wrap it up, and if I feel like I need to share some more, then you'll get another video. All right. Jesus Christ is Lord. The end time stuff is certainly getting more and more intense. And it's getting harder and harder to stay focused on what matters. Do yourself a service and, separate yourself from your phone and the internet and all the distraction of the world and, spend some time in the Word with the Holy Spirit. And I need to do the same myself because, we're called to share the Word. Here comes a train. It's going to get loud, so I'm out of here. Later.